This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Do you ever wish you could just slow down time and take a breather? That's what therapy is for. When life is flying by, therapy gives you a moment every week to hit pause, set intentions, and reset. BetterHelp offers affordable online therapy on a flexible schedule. Learn more at betterhelp.com. That's betterhelp.com. Hey, brother! Okay, here's the thing. For Salazar Slytherin to have had an heir that extends all the way down to Tom Riddle, then Slytherin himself must have had a child, which also means there must have been a Mrs. Slytherin, right? But given that the founders existed, 1,000 years prior to the days of Harry's time at school, our knowledge base of the dating pool during that time is slim, to say the least. We know the Bloody Baron liked Helena Ravenclaw. That's about it. I suppose Helga Hufflepuff and Rowena Ravenclaw herself could have been potential bachelorettes for old Salazar, but it does feel like that would have stood out as its own significant piece of lore. Plus, if it was Helga, then that would mean that Hepzibah Smith was also a descendant of Slytherin, which, to be fair, she did at one point possess both Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket, so... No, I'm just kidding. I do not think Helga and Salazar ended up together, but I do think it's possible that we have met Mrs. Slytherin without ever realizing it in the form of the Basilisk. Because as we all know from the Fantastic Beasts movies, there is a certain type of blood curse known as a malediction that can affect female wizards and slowly force them to transform into some kind of beast permanently. Nagini herself is the end result of such a curse, and we have strong reason to believe that Luna also has a malediction that will eventually turn her into a wolf, but that's a whole different video. The point is, there was a Mrs. Slytherin that we know nothing about, and just one other being we know Slytherin to be associated with outside of the founders, and that is the Basilisk. And yes, I know it sounds wild, but the more we looked at it, the more it just makes sense. Is it possible that the Basilisk is in fact the long-lost Mrs. Slytherin? Today, we find out. Hey, brother! Alright, before we even begin, I need to give a huge shout out to a one Tomas Salil who initially emailed us the idea for this theory. I was reading it and my mind was blown. We did do a little research, maybe changed a few things over here, but Tomas, thank you so much for the email. So first things first, can we even confirm that the Basilisk is female? Yes! We can! If you check the entry for Basilisk in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, it actually details how you can spot the difference. The Basilisk is a brilliant green serpent that may reach up to 50 feet in length. The male has a scarlet plume upon its head. It has exceptionally venomous fangs, but its most dangerous means of attack is the gaze of its large yellow eyes. The Basilisk in the chamber, however, has no plumage to speak of, thus we can at least confirm that she is a she. So, next question. Can a malediction curse cause you to become a magical beast, or is it just limited to regular old animals? Well, sadly, we don't have a very large sample size at, 1, but conveniently, the sample size we do have is also a snake. So that does help. But it does make you ask the question, is Nagini a fantastic beast? Is she magical or just a snake? And interestingly, I'd argue she sort of seems to straddle the line a little bit. Nagini does become a snake, but not an otherwise known species of snake, so it's not likely she just slowly became a boa constrictor or an anaconda or something similar. That said, she also doesn't seem to have become one of the snake-themed fantastic beasts that we already know about either, like the Basilisk or the Ashwinder or the Runespore or the Horned Serpent. Whatever she is, she appears to be wholly unique and yet is certainly still magical. For example, Nagini's venom does seem quite unique compared to that of many other snake species, and we know that from when Arthur is attacked at the Department of Mysteries. "If they could only take the bandages off, I'd be fit to go home." "Why can't they take them off, Dad?" asked Fred. "Well, I start bleeding like mad every time they try," said Mr. Weasley cheerfully, reaching across for his wand, which lay in his bedside cabinet, and waving it so that 6 extra chairs appeared at his bedside to seat them all. "It seems there was some rather unusual kind of poison in that snake's fangs that keeps wounds open." And beyond that, Nagini's venom is also used in the potion that restores Voldemort to his body, and something tells me that any old snake venom likely wouldn't possess that ability. Hers is definitely of a very unique magical variety. So yes, a malediction can cause you to transform into a magical snake, and I don't see why a basilisk would be off the table, especially in the context of a founder of Hogwarts and the most extreme levels of ancient magic. But I hear you. Just because it's possible doesn't mean it's true, and that's fair, but there is a lot of evidence to suggest that this was the case. Also feels like the very reason they would have just introduced Nagini at all. Like, why are they telling that story in Fantastic Beasts? First, let's talk about parcelmouth, the ability to speak to snakes. While it can be imitated by someone like Ron to open the chamber, and with enough study you could understand it, like Dumbledore in The Pensive, it is undoubtedly a straight up magical ability, just like Tonk's Metamorph Magi. Like, either you're born with it or you're not. And the best proof of this is actually Harry himself, who is able to speak to snakes his whole life until Voldemort is defeated and the piece of soul inside of him is gone, and Harry loses the ability to talk to snakes. Either way, this ability just seems joined at the hip with the Slytherin heritage in particular. Oh well, I mean, snakes don't have hips, but you know what I mean. In fact, every known parcelmouth in the story is descended from this one family line, which is crazy. Like, over 1,000 years and generations of wizards, and not a single other parcelmouth arises in any other family. Like, it never randomly pops up anywhere else. Even if it's a rare ability, you'd think at least one other person would randomly get born with it, but no, which to me means it's not random at all, but that there was some kind of initial catalyst for it that has since been passed down. And now we've gotten to the part I find particularly interesting about this concept, because we always assume it is Salazar Slytherin who possessed the ability and therefore was able to pass it down to his descendants. But how did he magically manifest such an ability in the first place? Huge question, but first we need to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Shopify. I'm sure you're all well aware of the fact that we have our own web store called Carlin Brothers Mercantile, where we sell everything from shirts and pins to our own brand of coffee and, of course, candles. And it has been so much fun over the years expanding our product offering, but we never could have started selling online without Shopify. And Shopify is so great because they've helped us sell at every stage of the business, from the very early humble beginnings with our first few pieces of merch to the robust store it is today. People ask me what I do for a living. I'm like, I'm an online candle salesman. One thing we struggled with early on though was just like how much merch we needed to order to meet demand, because like selling out can mean that people are left without something they wanted, and over ordering can leave us buried in excess and expenses. But Shopify is loaded with a huge variety of reports that can examine product performance from like seemingly every single angle over any period of time. And this helps make sure that when you buy merch, your support is in fact making its way to us, which we really appreciate. So if you're looking to open a web store, Shopify is absolutely the way to go. And you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/SCB, all lowercase. One more time, go to shopify.com/SCB now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/SCB. Link is in the description down below. And now back to Slytherin and his big question. How did he magically manifest the ability to speak Parseltongue in the first place? Well, what if he didn't? What if, more similar to Ron and Dumbledore, he was only able to learn the ability from his wife, who was otherwise toggling between human and snake forms? For Salazar, this would be a unique opportunity to learn from someone who natively speaks snake, because his wife just is one part of the time. And yes, once you start becoming a snake, you do manifest the ability to speak to them. We even have proof of that. It's kind of hard to tell in the movie, but the screenplay for Crimes of Grindelwald confirms that Nagini, a non-descendant of Slytherin, as far as we know, can speak Parseltongue. Nagini suddenly strikes at Skender through the bars and utters a cry in Parseltongue. Skender crumples, bleeding, at the back of the tent. Credence smashes open the fire drake's cage, and they soar to freedom like fireworks. But what's cool about that is that it also means it's actually Mrs. Slytherin's bloodline, which features both snake and human anatomy that pass down this otherwise very unique ability. Plus, this just gives an overall brand new context to the Chamber of Secrets itself. Like, it's not what years of mystery might suggest, the place where Salazar Slytherin hid a monster that was meant to rid the school of Muggleborns. Instead, it's a safe place for his wife to live out her days without risk of harming others, which, due to the extremely deadly nature of the Basilisk's heir, would basically mean there's no safe place for her to otherwise reside. Beyond that, we also know Salazar Slytherin's most noteworthy artifact that has survived the generations is, of all things, a locket. And not for nothing, but lockets aren't usually known for their nefarious connotations. If anything, they're usually tokens worn by loved ones as a way to keep a piece of the people they care for most close to them at all times. Like, they are distinctly not evil in nature, they usually represent love. On the flip side though, when Tom Riddle directs the Basilisk at Harry, she emerges from Slytherin's mouth, which seems to reflect a far darker symbol within the wizarding world, the Dark Mark. However, completely recontextualized, the idea of a snake emerging from a skull could also be misinterpreted throughout the years and instead represent the way in which Slytherin and his wife were still able to communicate following the complete transformation from human to basilisk. Yeah. That's right, all those Dark Mark tattoos the Death Eaters are sporting aren't quite so edgy as we all thought. They're actually symbols of love. In fact, to take it a step further, how do you open the locket? With parcel tongue. Duh! This even, by complete accident, fits in with our other long-standing theory about the locket, which is that it keeps the secret of how to enter the chamber within it. The locket is basically acting like the Horcrux version of a Fidelius charm, which explains also why nobody can ever find the chamber or remember what the monster is, just that there is a chamber and that there is a monster. Because of course, after Slytherin leaves the school, he'd also have to leave his wife behind and would want her to be safe, hence the secrecy. Even Slytherin's ideals could be recontextualized by this possibility because a malediction is a blood curse. And what is Slytherin said to have cared so much about? Pure blood. But like, what if pure blood back then didn't refer to lineage, but like non-cursed blood, because he didn't want what happened to his wife to happen to others? Like, the list of the Sacred 28 and the pure blood elitism didn't even come about until the 1930s. The other founders would of course said, no, that's no reason to deny someone an education, and Slytherin would have been like, well, if we allow them here, they will undoubtedly form relationships and marry the other students. Their condition will be passed down and spread until it wipes us out. It'll be a pandemic. I won't be privy to it. I won't. I'm out. That's probably how he walked. Now, of course, he would end up being wrong about that, but you can see where he's coming from. With all of this in mind though, you might be thinking, well, that's all well and fine, but if this is true, then why would the Basilisk respond to the commands of Tom Riddle? Why would it attack Harry and the other students in the castle? And it's a great question and a slightly unfortunate byproduct of the circumstances. However, I think as Slytherin's true heir, albeit one who has grossly misinterpreted the intentions of his ancestor, would still have the unique ability to command the Basilisk to do its bidding. Parcelmouths already have like some control over snakes, and I think once you're in full transformation, like you really just like lose your humanity. Of course, as we all know, attacking Harry ultimately doesn't go so well for the Basilisk, who, if she is in fact Salazar Slytherin's former love, is actually struck down by the very blade of Slytherin's own best friend, Godric Gryffindor. Which I admit, at first, that part was kind of devastating to imagine. A world where we've come to know the love and camaraderie amongst the founders and their partners, only to see that time has twisted their beliefs to nearly unrecognizable levels, and they've almost been turned against one another. But that's not totally the case, is it? Because what's kind of incredible about even this is that very famously, when Harry kills the Basilisk with the Sword of Gryffindor, it actually imbibes her powerful venom into the blade, making it uniquely capable and vitally important in the destruction of the Horcruxes and the ultimate downfall of Lord Voldemort. the very person who had so grossly misinterpreted the beliefs and teachings of Slytherin centuries prior. Meaning, in the end, the friendship is still surviving after all this while to overcome evil. Ben, my question for you and everybody else is, what do you think? Is it possible? Was the Basilisk Slytherin's wife? Let me know in the towel section down below. Guys, thanks as always for watching today's video. Don't forget to hit that like button and ring that bell so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see why Luna is almost definitely turning into a wolf, you can check out this video right here. But Ben, otherwise, until next time, I will see you in another life, brother.